Hello you gorgeous people, this is Chris from Rakombu and I'm here with the new Oppo F9, freshly launched smartphone, rocking this funky water drop display design. We're going to get it unboxed, set up and check out exactly what you can expect if you decide to throw some cash at Oppo for the F9. Now if you are watching from India, this could be launched in your country as the F9 Pro. It's not entirely certain just yet as it hasn't officially been launched over there just yet, but over here in the West it should be the F9. I'm just going to have a quick flick around and see exactly what you get. So first of all, a lovely bit of protective case action, always good if you're a bit of a butterfingers like us. And a bit of quick start guide action as well, but of course we'll be completely neglecting that as always. Let's get the actual phone out. We'll put that aside for a second because we'll be spending lots of time on that. We'll just check to see what else you get in the box. I'm assuming basically, yep, charger and that's your whack pretty much. This was shipped to us fresh from Asia by Oppo, so cheers guys. So of course it is an Asian adapter, as you can see there, but you can expect a proper 3-pin one if you buy it here in the UK. And unfortunately it is a bit of micro USB actually, it's not the Type-C reversible effort, so that's a bit of a shame, but never mind, hey ho. And you get some little earbuds bundled in the box as well, so that's a nice little bonus extra. Of course, they're the usual hard shell type that will absolutely shave your ears to bits, but you can't expect the moon on a stick. Oh, I should never have taken them out of here. I'm never going to get those back in now. Ah, he says, doubting his own extreme skills. Oh, and of course, cannot forget, you do of course get a Pokey Pin device. You can actually get your SIM card in this mother, always handy. So let's chuck the box and everything aside, and then we'll actually check out the Oppo F9 in all of its glory. Now the Oppo F9 unsurprisingly rocks the same smartphone design language as pretty much every other handset released in 2018. It's got a nice glossy rear, so it's nice and shiny, and it'll also probably scuff up a bit of a storm as well, which of course will be great when I'm trying to get lots of sexy shots of it. However, Oppo has actually put a good bit of effort in as well, and hopefully you can make out here, it does rock a very cool sort of speckled diamond design. So when you sort of tilt it towards the light, the diamond pattern sort of spread across the surface, and it's very funky indeed, and something we don't see on any other handsets. The closest I've seen to this is the likes of the Honor 10 with its funky disco style striations that catch the light just so. I'll just hold it up here so you can really check it out. Unfortunately it is a bit scuffed already, but you can pick it up in a number of different hues. This is the Twilight Blue model, and you can also grab it in Starry Purple or Sunrise Red. Doesn't that sound lovely? Apologies again for the greasy prints. I haven't even had a kebab for breakfast or anything today, not sure what's going on there. Here on the back you will of course see that there is a fingerprint sensor as well. It's actually pretty much level with the rest of the back of the phone. It isn't sort of indented like you get with a lot of smartphones, so it might possibly be a little bit tricky to pick out when you're just picking up the phone and just blindly fumbling for that fingerprint sensor, but hopefully that won't prove the case. You can just about make out the contours of the edge in there, so we'll be testing that out in full of course. And then looking around the rest of the phone, you basically have your power button here. Down below you do have a headphone jack, which is always good to see. You've got your USB, it's old school micro USB unfortunately, your speaker port, and then over on this side you've got your volume buttons and your SIM tray, which also accepts micro SD memory cards, and then that's your whack. Let's just see if we've got any gas in the tank. Yes, beautiful stuff. So now we can get it all set up and we'll have a bit of a run through the operating system and everything as well. Now it looks like Oppo has actually installed a screen protector on top of the display as well, which is always good to see. A lot of the smartphones we've rocked from 2018, certainly the Asian ones such as the Huawei P20 series, the Honor, stuff like that, they all seem to come with a pre-installed screen protector, which is great because I'm absolutely rubbish at putting them in myself, so it's good to have that bit of extra protection. So I've gone through the boring Wi-Fi setup, Google setup, all that kind of shenanigans, and now we're into the security stuff. And as you can see, it's got a nice bit of facial recognition on top of that fingerprint sensor, so that's always great to see. So we'll get that all set up now. So first of all, just add the fingerprint, just in case of just tapping this bad boy over and over. And now we'll do the face enrollment. So just got to get my mug in position and hopefully it'll take a good old read of that. There we go. And as you can see, you can just pick up the phone, it will immediately turn on the screen and it will look for your face. So it should be nice and easy, you shouldn't even have to hit that power button, great stuff. And there we go, setup all complete. So as you can see, it's a bit of Android 8.1 with a bit of Oppo's on Color OS 5.2 sat on top. So that'll add a few extra features and of course change up the whole look and feel of Android. But as you can see, immediately it's a fairly straightforward, familiar experience for anyone who's used Android before and the likes of Honor smartphones, Huawei smartphones, stuff like that. So immediately we're getting little messages up, which just basically help with the general setup, things like that. As you can see, pull down the notifications bar, that basically looks exactly how you would expect. You can dive on into the settings, and we're expecting quite a lot of bonus stuff in there. It's actually been a while since I've used an Oppo phone, I have to admit, so a lot of this stuff might be quite new to me, so we'll go through it together. First of all, turn on little bits like the battery percentage for the notifications bar, stuff like that, so you can get it set up exactly how you want. It's always good to see a form of night mode. In this case it's called Night Shield, so you can just schedule that to come on, so for instance starts at 10 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning, and all it does is it basically just filters the blue light for a nice, easy, warm, comfortable, easy on the eye experience, so that's great to see. There's a quiet time mode, which basically allows you to set a kind of a do not disturb mode, which turns on automatically or manually. Of course, the security stuff we've already set up. Smart convenience. This allows you to configure the navigation keys, so I actually prefer it set up so it's back to the left rather than that Samsung style other way around. And you can also hide the navigation keys from sight as well, and use swipe up to get them onto the screen. And if we dive down a bit, as you can see, you've got usual app management and everything. You can clone your apps if you have more than one account, which is definitely handy. Game space, that's a game and style mode. So for instance, you'll be able to prevent any notifications from tapping through and really bugging you while you're trying to get your game on. As you can see, you can do graphics acceleration, all kinds of stuff in there as well. And of course, there's a bit of app split screen mode as well, which you can access by dragging 3 fingers up the screen by the looks of it. So let's give that a go. So for instance, we'll dive on into the Opera browser, which is the default web browser on an Oppo handset. And then if we just go like so, there we go, we're into split screen mode, and then we can pick something else to open up side by side. So it's a slightly different way of doing things, but most of the Android features that we know and love should be on there as standard. So that's a little bit about Color OS, but what about the rest of the hardware? So it is of course a 6.3 inch IPS display. It's a full HD plus display as well, because it's got stretched 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, and it's got of course this funky water drop display design as well, which means up top you do get a notch, but it is a tiny little notch, possibly the smallest notch we've ever seen. And that basically means you still get a front-facing camera up top, but also that screen does stretch all the way to the very top of the phone as well, pretty much covering the entire front of the phone. In fact, you only get this tiny little bezel down below, not even any branding or anything there, and quite skinny, slender bezels down the side. I just managed to combine both of those words into one. Clever me. So far, that IPS panel seems really bright and vibrant. In fact, if we can dial up the brightness even further, because it's only halfway along, so let's do that. And then, as you can see, yes, so eye-punchingly bright right there. You should have no problem seeing that in daylight. The viewing angles and everything seem pretty solid, just a slight darkening as you tilt away, but everything remains nice and visible. And those colours are definitely really shining there as well, nice and punchy. Now running the show, it's actually a MediaTek chipset. It's the Helio P60, which I believe Oppo's used in a couple of other phones such as the F7 before. And you can get it in either 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. In this case, it is the 6GB model. I'm not sure if all of the phones coming to the UK will be 6 gigs or if you'll get a choice. So far, touchwood, apps seem to load up pretty quickly. You can obviously do the bit of split screen and everything as well, and hopefully it'll stand the test of time quite nicely. It's really frustrating when you get a good mid-range handset and it starts to slow down after just a sort of a few months. So fingers crossed this will stand the test of time quite nicely. As for the storage, you should get 64GB on board as well, so let's just dive into the storage section. It's buried away in the additional settings, of course it is. So there it is. And as you can see, 64GB of storage space. But you do only have 47.3 to play around with for your apps and all the rest of it. Still quite a lot. You should be able to get a decent amount of Spotify songs, Netflix, movies, things like that downloaded, as well as apps and the rest. And it's got micro SD memory card support as well, so you can expand that storage on demand. And what about the battery tech? Well, it's a 3500 mAh cell. I believe the battery is actually there in the main settings. There we go. Now it supports a bit of VOOC flash charging, probably mispronounced that completely, but basically it's a super fast and super safe way of charging your smartphone. Hopefully, just like OnePlus's Dash Charge, it'll keep the phone nice and cool when charging up, and you apparently can get a couple hours of use from just 5 minutes at the plug. So we will see how effective that is. Stay tuned for our in-depth review, of course, of the Oppo F9 for all you need to know. And as you can see here, you can get straight into the power consumption deal, so you can see exactly which apps are draining your power. You've got the power saving mode, so plenty of little services on board there to help you get the longest possible battery life from the Oppo F9. Which brings us onto the camera tech, and as we saw earlier, you get a dual lens race sensor on the Oppo F9. There's a 16 megapixel primary camera with an f1.85 aperture, and that's backed by a 2 megapixel f1.85 secondary depth sensor essentially, just to help out with those portrait modes and the rest. If we dive on into the camera app, it looks like your typical sort of traditional Android camera. Lots of settings to maybe wrap your head around. You've got plenty of portrait modes and all that kind of stuff to play around with as well. So portrait mode of course uses both lenses to lock onto your subjects and blur the background. You've got sticker mode, so you can basically add lots of AR style effects, such as of course funny bunny ears, all this kind of stuff, the kind of shenanigans you'll find on an Honor handset for instance. Panorama mode and expert mode, which gives you full manual controls. So just a quick tap there, and as you can see, you can alter the white balance, the ISO level, all this kind of stuff. Go back into the standard auto photo mode, you can see you've got HDR up top. You've also got a super vivid mode, which will just really boost those colours presumably. And you've got a timer you can play around with as well. And then this here is basically just allows you to boost that camera app so it uses the full screen. Of course you get the usual filters and a beauty mode and everything as well. And if we give this a little tap, it's a bit of Google Lens action. Dive on into the video mode, and it shoots 1080p by default, but you can flick between that and 720p. There's no support for 4K resolution video sadly, so pretty straightforward stuff there. And of course you can shoot usual slow motion and time-lapse shenanigans as well. And then if we flip around to the front-facing camera, there we are, hooray! It's got, as you can see, a whole bunch of different modes again that you can use, such as sticker mode. Oh well, there we go. Don't I look fetching? Oh, I hate sticker mode so much. You can, of course, again shoot up to full HD video and a bit of time-lapse action as well. And I believe it's a 25 megapixel front-facing camera with f2.0 aperture lens as well. So hopefully should be sort of alright for your standard everyday conditions. We'll probably struggle a bit in low light. But it certainly seems pretty sure. It seems to be doing a pretty good job of following my face about as well. So always handy. And while we're on the subject of that, we'll just see how the facial recognition holds up. So if you just like lift the phone, it should automatically turn on, as you can see there. And then it just says swipe to open. So presumably it's already recognized my mug. Alternatively, of course, you can use that fingerprint sensor. So a quick tap, and as you can see there, you're into your desktop. It's actually pretty quick. Very, very swift. In fact, very little delay whatsoever. So we'll be testing that out in full. Of course, seeing how easy it is to find that, that fingerprint sensor on demand. So that right there is the Oppo F9 unboxed and hands-on review. So stay tuned for in-depth review. We're going to be testing out that camera tech, having a good play around. I'll be using it as my full-time personal smartphone. Any questions or comments or anything, let us know in the comments down below. What do you reckon about the Oppo F9? Are you tempted by it? Hoping it's going to come to your particular country? Definitely let us know. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give it a good old poke if you want more on the latest and greatest mobile tech. Thanks everyone. Love you. Bye.